we are on the site of the castle.
And it was the first time the Beatles had really stopped being semi-professional almost.
Look at that.
Absolutely fascinating.
That's what you do. You buy these clothes that cost money and make a difference in it. But we never do that.
Never complains, gets up, gets on with a smile on his face.
You just want you to sit in your chair and go, hip hip hooray, for the Western press and the Western narrative. You dare dictate the same old, every single day without this. If you haven't seen it before, please watch the first series, the first 2 episodes, the second series. Stallone. Good evening, everyone. I'm awfully sorry I'm late. What has happened? Went shopping and got held up. My daughter brought me, and she's always arguing. Argues about everything. But anyway, I've got a great friend in tonight. He's a fellow historian. Superb he is. He really is superb. Great archivist as well. And he's done loads of when I was at uni and going back years and years ago, he did a hell of a lot of research for me, where we had to research certain things. I just said, do us a favour, I can't research all this, can you take some off me? And he said, yeah. And he did it, and he's fantastic. And we've got a lot to get through tonight. I just want to say hello to some wonderful people here. Myra Page, hi Frank and everyone. I am Myra, lovely to see you. The Redbird, bless you up, Myra. They're all talking to one another here. Anyway, the Redbird says, I'm going to start a GoFundMe to get our Frank an alarm clock. Thanks very much. GW, brilliant to see you, D. Honestly, it really is. Absolutely delighted to see everyone on here. And we've got a lot to get through. I'm telling you now, we've got a hell of a lot to get through, from even the crash that happened and what Trump has come out and said. I'm going to go straight to David Owens, great fella. Hey, David.
Hi, Frank.
You okay?
I'm fine, good.
You're looking forward to this?
Sort of. Depending on how far we go to wander off.
I was just listening there, to Trump and what he said about, about this crash, and he blamed the controllers, but he just didn't blame the controllers. He said, didn't he, more or less, these are the wrong people that should be in charge. And, there's other people who went after the same job who never got and put these fellas in, or whoever it is, these controllers. What's your take on his take on that?
What people don't understand is that when Obama was president, he instigated the DEI project with the recruitment of them. So during his tenure, it carried itself through. And when Trump became president, he cancelled it. And he said it should be based on merit, not on the DEI sort of logic that they're using. And then when Biden became president, he reversed it again back to what Obama had done. And this is why he's so bitter about, his reason or suggestions about the possibility of a DEI placement was responsible for the crash. But there's some other things that have come out since that. The air traffic controllers, one of them was having to do 2 jobs at once, and bringing in the helicopter while the aircraft was coming into land. And another bit of information is that the helicopter has had sort of like a master pilot, and he had well, it wasn't a trainee, but it was a female, and she only had 500 hours of flying. So at the moment, they don't know who was in control of the helicopter. But when the black boxes come out, that's when all the information will be available. Also, I don't know what her position is, but she's certainly in charge of air safety. And when she was interviewed today, she didn't dismiss Trump's statement. She just said more or less everything's on the table.
Well, don't you think that also, with the jets as well, freezing cold water, and that could have killed them as well. Once you go in, sorry?
It's hypothermia, isn't it?
Yeah, it's you right away. And just like the Titanic, when people were jumping into the water, what you didn't have the amount of deaths that was caused through that. It was just
hypothermia. Your thinking goes completely because you're so disorientated, and but it's real panic. Parts of your body refuse to move, and that is one of the reasons why you can drown as well when you get hypothermia, because you do lose the ability to sort of struggle to, maybe if you're under the water, try and get to the surface. It's a horrible thing, hypothermia.
Yeah, it is. And, this is what it's all about. We just don't know really what's happened. But to blame, just to come out, he must know something. He must have been told something.
Well, there's a class action of some lawyers. He's taking a class action on behalf of 300 applicants who, they got through the sort of whatever the assessment they do, and they came through with 100% status, but they were rejected in favour of others, and they used a sort of, I don't know how they did it, but they knew that they were dismissed because of the situation they were in, that they were what they call white privilege, and they're so annoyed about it. Anyway, they've taken this class, and this is well before this incident, so it's been ongoing. I saw the clip of the lawyer that's doing it, and he really went on message about where they were badly sort of how would I put it, badly done to, and that people have not as meritocracy went out the window basically, and it was just sort of to get the quotas of what's what normally calls box chicken, so many of whatever, and even Trump, I don't know if you heard him when he reeled off all the disabilities. He went to town, and he even threw him. He said even dwarfs. So
this is what I'm saying about Trump. He just comes out and says it no matter what. And if he thinks something is wrong, he'll tell you something is wrong. But to bring the females into it as well, the fighter pilots, females are fighter pilots all over the globe. In their air forces, and they're also passenger airlines pilots as well. So, to to bring in, oh, they were females in the Black Hawk, I thought, oh, well, that's a bit misogynist. To be honest,
he doesn't even know whether it was a female pilot in the Black Hawk, but
exactly.
he was told that there was a female sort of under instruction on the aircraft.
Precisely, absolutely.
I even saw a comment today that the guy was a trans.
Well, as soon even before he was POTUS, he came out and said he's going to stop all this wokeness. This is what it's all about as well. When you look at it carefully, when you see what he's saying, again, Anyway, I want to digress now onto another matter, and it's to do with this country and the relationship between this country and Europe and also America, because we've had a prime minister in, just a few months. It's as simple as that, and yet he's hated. And I mean, I don't like using that word loosely, hate. I hate the word anyway, myself personally. But anyway, he is hated, and I've never known. I knew the likes of, from Cameron right up to Rishi Sunak. They were all, hated. Every one of them, all incompetent. And we've got this fella who's below the bottom of the pile. He's there. He's the bottom of the pile. Can you tell me why he's hated so much, even by America? The likes of Trump, because I know that he called Trump for everything. I do know that. And he sent over 100 activists, for Kamala Harris. So do you think that's part of it as well?
Well, his background is before he became the head of the Department of Prosecutions, he was a human rights lawyer. So his sort of persona is basically to sort of support what we would call people who sort of not worthy of support at times, especially these people who have been to be removed from the country. He was involved with supporting people from Rwanda who had to be extradited to face war crimes, or not so much war crimes, but genocide. And he was one of the barristers that sort of argued that their human rights would be violated if they went back to Rwanda, in as much that if they were found guilty, they would have been sentenced to death. But the fact that there was 500,000 Rwandans of the Hutu were slaughtered within days, I mean, where was their human rights? I mean, I just don't understand why he has this sort of thing. And the support for the European Court is, it's so ridiculous. He would put that above British law.
But do you think that, one of the dislikes about it is the ways that these Southport what they were.
The way he went off with that one about these people who were involved in the riots, we won't have no truck with it. They're going to be sentenced, and he did it sort of overnight, didn't he? I mean, that's where the two-tier justice was thrown at him, although he denied it. And then he started with this far right, and some of the people that were involved in that, I mean, they were children. I mean, to label children as being far right, I mean, that's a bit ridiculous, isn't it? And then the other thing is when he stopped the winter fuel payments. I mean, it wasn't him that did it, but it was his chancellor that did it. I mean, that really was the thing that turned a lot of people against him. And then
do you think that's okay? I'm sorry to jump in there, because do you reckon remember when they wanted to get rid of the illegals, and they said, they said to Rwanda, which came as a big surprise to me, actually. Why Rwanda? Now, do you think that's why, going back to what you said, and taking migrants in from Rwanda itself, that we've got a special relationship with them, and that's why, they've asked the Rwandans to take all these illegals in. Is that one of the reasons? And also, the father, I don't know whether the rumours, whether it's true or anything, that the father of this young lad who killed, murdered, butchered, shall I say, three young girls, three children, premeditated it was as well. We know that now. It was premeditated murder. And yet, he said that he was a butcher over there. And I mean, not just a ordinary butcher, but a butcher of their human beings.
He actually came to the UK before the Rwandan genocide, but he'd been a military officer prior to that, so I can't see any connection there. But obviously, he was sort of well placed in the sort of society within Rwanda, and apparently some of the people he's still in touch with are members of the Rwandan government. The other thing that is strange about using Rwanda to take illegals is that Rwanda was never part of the British Empire or even Commonwealth.
Exactly.
It was Belgium and then became French. So I can't see the reason
the
why.
Connection. I can't see the connection, actually, but it just goes back to Stormy. It really goes back to Stormy and nobody else, and that's why. But anyway, I just want to see what, I'm sorry there, Dave, I just want to see what the people are saying. ADW, hey, Frank and guest and chat, and I'm feeling, I say, made up your ear. I'm really made up. And Trigger says many other African countries they could have gone to. Exactly. Keir Starmer says the Anfield Roar. Biggest problem is he is a human rights lawyer. For me, that is not a fair footing. And I don't believe once you've had a career fighting for such causes that again, you can't have a different ideology. That's right. TW says Starmer is hated for the same reason that Neil Kinnock was hated. They present themselves as being on the side of the weak, but they are frauds and anything but. Their fraudulence removes people's hopes. That's a cracking comment, that. They're all good comments, actually. I'll just go down a little bit then. I'm going to ask you to comment on some of these wonderful comments. And the answer is this decision on Labour's action over the Stockport order is not the only reason they are already one of the worst governments ever. Their lie towards fuel allowance was a spit in the face to the retired people. And he carries on by saying, their shameless diversions from the dealings with the raping gangs have got, and having the front to dismiss all the query as causing inflammatory racist rhetoric. What's your take on that?
I quite agree with a lot of it. By the way, the other problem with human rights is choice of Attorney General. The guy's name's Richard Hamer. Now, he's unelected because they made him a baron so that he could be brought into the government. Now, this guy was worked alongside Starmer when he was in Chambers, and he's another one that was concerned with human rights. He actually was involved with IRA terrorists, trying to get them sort of, off the hook. He was also involved with an ISIS terrorist who had his bank cash and everything frozen, and he pursued a case that was against his human rights to have his assets frozen, and he won that case. There's also the what's her name, Begum girl.
Oh yeah, Begum.
Well, he was involved in trying to bring her back to the UK when a citizenship was being debated, and he was insisting that she be brought to the UK to go to the court rather than have it done over a link, and he never got away with that one. But that's his background, and the other hypocrisy was when the Tories Attorney General was in situ. They were all screaming about him having 2 jobs, and this guy, he's doing exactly the same, but suddenly it's not a problem anymore. He can be Attorney General, not be responsible to Parliament, and then carry on doing his sort of extra curriculum duties outside of Parliament.
Well, what you reckon there? What Trigger says here? Isn't one of his dad's relatives a high-up Rwandan politician? And that's not Starmer, obviously. That's that young lad's dad.
But he, from what I've read, he's still got contacts within Rwanda, and you never get the truth be given. The other thing is, when he came to Southport, his wife, I think she worked in the NHS when they were in Cardiff, and when he came to, well, it was Banks, wasn't Southport. She's never worked since she's been there, and he's only worked as a part-time taxi driver. So, where's their income coming from to survive?
Exactly. And there's so many questions.
And now they've gone underground. So obviously someone's supporting them to keep their heads down, aren't they? Now, whether it's the government or whether it's, they've got connections doing it.
Well,
I mean, you can imagine when the Rwandan uprising was on, when the rebels took control of the country, the first thing they go for is, what's in the treasure house, and they get their hands on what's in there, and then that gets moved out the country just in case, isn't it? So that when they have to do a run, they've got a safe place to go to. So if he's well connected within the government, but we never get told the real story. So there's a possibility he's living off funds that have been stashed in the UK.
Yeah. The Unfield Horse says, that's an interesting point, David, but also his whole career is tarnished by being in that Corbyn government. For me, they are anti-Semites, and it's still running right through their party. Anything, you've only, this is the labels that I've been talking about in the past, David. No matter what you say, you're labelled. And this is the control over, I'm not saying free speech because there is none. In my opinion, there's no free speech whatsoever. So if you want to say something, you're labelled. And there's a lot of labels, lots and lots of isms. And you're them, and I'm them, and the chatter's them. So you really can't say anything unless you're labelled one or the other. Am I right?
Always the anti-Semitism. His wife's Jewish, and his children are brought up in the Jewish faith, and he professes to attend, Jewish religious services. So I don't know where he comes with that one.
Listen to what that thing says.
There's an awful lot of talk about whether he's actually married, and who was he living with, and what's he up to.
This,
I mean, the classic one was when he said he was living in Lord Ali's house because his son was taking his A levels.
that was not.
And then he had photographs on the mantelpiece of his family, and at the time we all thought it was his house. But the other thing is that was in July. I mean, the exams were well over.
Yeah.
So it's just a sort of a fabrication around. Did his wife throw him out?
Well, there's lots of made-up stories, to be honest. So we call them made-up stories rather than.
They leave themselves wide open to speculation, don't they? I mean,
Yes.
When you get found out with your lies, it's well, okay, we found him out on that lie. What other lies has he?
I think the W sums us up, and his wife wears Pakistani knickers.
Yeah. I mean, fancy let yourself get snared in that one.
Exactly. Well, the Anfield Law says this is a major reason why Trump resonates so strongly. When you say you're for this country, at least he says it and cares.
Yeah.
I've not seen one action from this dead duck for our country. That's a cracking comment, isn't it? But it isn't. He's done everyone, from the likes of the pensioners right down to the ordinary people who go shopping. And as we all know, Putin gets the blame.
Because even he's done with servicemen who were killed in action.
Oh.
The compensation payments that they get, well, they're getting inheritance tax attached to them now. I mean, that's, the guy that died for his country, and then his widow, okay, they give us some money to survive with their family, and then they go and bang inheritance tax on it.
But what about this? It's only what's going on about Keir Starmer, to be honest, and they're coming in with these comments thick and fast. The Anfield Law says, "Oh, his wife's Jewish. Yes, we'll commit either way when pressed about Gaza region." Brilliant, that. The man obviously cannot even run his own household, let alone the country. And the DW says, "Damn right. If the street knows that another man is buying your wife a pair of knickers."
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's rather strange, though, isn't it? It's rather strange.
That's like a fair coat and no knickers, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the Emperor replying there to DW. I've forgotten that, DW. Yeah, getting backhanders. Well, what do you think of this? What the Redbird says, Starmer hasn't stole from the illegals. He's making them rich while we suffer. Have you got any take on that? Because...
Well, I mean, how would you say you're making them rich? I mean, you're getting them a good living.
That's the point. I think that's what he means, while we suffer, to be honest, especially the pensioners. I mean, and I've gone on about this, David, I've gone on this many times before, about the elderly in this country and the state of the state pension. It's the lowest in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
The lowest in Europe. And I always remember when Edwina Curry, was out and about and, going on the telly and everything else, and people were complaining then, the opposition, the Labour to Thatcher's government, and they said, about the cold weather coming in, severe winters, and she turns around and said, well, they can knit, this is the pensioners, woolen gloves and scarves. And I think that's one of the most disgusting coming out of a minister to any part of the country in any era to say that about the pensioners, to be honest. And yet nothing's changed. Nothing at all has changed, no matter what party you vote for. And I just think it's...
You can see the mindset with them because, I mean, when they're in the establishments and in Parliament, I mean, they know that when their time's over and their pensions are far in excess of anything that we would ever achieve. And they sort of, they have not second jobs, but they're like board members, so they get a remuneration off that, and they're well sort of covered. So when they look at pensioners, they probably at the back of their minds they think, well, you know, we're all right, so they must be all right.
Well, Trigger says, and he's spot on there, because he says, do you guys think it really matters which party is running the country when they are just the puppets being controlled by the real puppet masters? And the real puppet masters, as you know and I know, is the Americans. We are the lapping dog. We are the wagging dog, if you like.
We say the WEF. I mean, both Starmer and the what's her name, Rachel Reeves. They've both been to Davos, and Starmer was there before he even became Prime Minister.
Yeah, so I know.
Whatever orders they're getting from them, and you know they'll say yay and no to the banks or whether to support. I mean, when our money runs out, or our ability to raise any more money from the banks, that's going to be the big problem.
Exactly.
And it's up to the people in the WEF whether it's a go or it's a no go.
Do you know what the comments here? Like, take this, and I want to talk about Biden. I really want to talk about Biden and Russia. I really do, and what was happening. Now, the Anthony Ross says his actions are identical to those US Biden government with their handouts to illegals while their people who were caught in the horrendous flooding given nothing. That's disgusting. But what about the wildfires as well? Not just the flooding, but the wildfires. Everything is centered around the Americans. Now, there's, rather than go into what Biden done, he's gone. And he's caused everything what's happening today. Trump came out and said, I'm going to stop all this. I am going to stop all this, and I'll stop it within 24 hours, which was nuts, to be honest. You know, that was just that was a clickbait, so that the ordinary Americans would say, listen, this fella's talking peace. That's Trump, he's talking peace, let's vote for him. And that's how he got in. It was a landslide, really, how he got in. And that's on his campaign. That was on the trail. That was on his campaign trail about peace. Now, let's go back a little. A couple of hours ago, well, a couple of days ago, he's come out and said, hasn't he, if anyone doesn't comply with America, you know, this country, and he mentioned BRICS, he's only just mentioned BRICS now, the other alternative to the dollar, really, and trade. And he said he's going to put on 100 tariffs, 100% tariffs. So if you're, if you want to stay with us, you get, you'll get special benefits. Yet, if you don't stay with us, you're going to have 100% tariffs. I think, in my opinion, it'll backfire. I don't think he realizes how powerful BRICS are. What's your take on that, what he said, about 100% tariffs?
Well, I mean, he hasn't sort of intimated where he's going to put the tariffs on, has he?
No.
He's just made this a while. Like he did it with Colombia, didn't he? When they were trying to take the illegals back, and they said they weren't going to bring them into the country, and he said, "Okay, I'm putting tariffs on." So overnight they said, "Okay, well we'll take them back then." So it's just a wild threat, isn't it? I mean, if you got sort of weak,
I don't think it's a threat, though, David. I think it's bullying on a big scale. Because that's what they are, the Americans, the bullies.
It's how business can operate, isn't it? And high rollers, they would make threats, and we'll do this and we'll do that. So you've got to sort of say, well, okay, yeah, I'll go halfway with you then.
Yeah. Well, the Redbird, he just comes out and says something, but what the last two words, evil elites, and that's what it's all about, evil elites. You mentioned the WEF. What a horrible bunch they are, a horrible bunch. I remember last year, I think. Yeah, it must have been last year. Obviously, we're only coming into February now, when that George Soros was being interviewed, and he said about injections, vaccines, and he said, one day, he said, we will have everybody more or less under control. And someone came out and said, it'll be through the injections. They'll inject somebody with something. And there's the control. I forget who this fellow was, but he was a top-notch scientist. Condemning Soros. He really was condemning. And he said, that's why whatever is coming out in the vaccinations, it'll be going into your bloodstream and you'll be monitored for the rest of your life, just like what it is today with CCTV, televisions, everything else, anything electrical now, high-tech. They'll be looking at us now. We could get banned or whatever. Like I got banned, didn't I, off Facebook and things like that, but that's the way it is. The DW says he's explaining to the Anfield Road, the Sun still doesn't sell in Liverpool when 40 to 50% of Liverpool's population is immigrants. The Sun will sell again. That's what immigration is about, breaking up social cohesion. What do you think of that? That's some statement, that's some comment. What do you reckon? Do you reckon it is? Control. You've only got to look at some parts, and I'm going back a few years now when, no, I'm not going to say it, I'll get bans and labels and everything else, but it's about these hate speeches by a certain group of people a few years ago down in London, and they were shocking. And yet nothing was getting done to them until, finally woke up and said, hang on a minute, the ordinary people I'm talking about. And the fella who was doing all these hate speeches in London, by the way, he was sent to jail. And quite rightly so. So I can't even say who it was, because I'd get into trouble. But I think you know what I mean. I think the chat will know who I mean. All these hate speeches against you, against me, against everybody. And this, it was incredible. But that's the way it's going now, unfortunately. And again, it's only what the DW said there. It's breaking up social cohesion. Because there's not going to be any sort of, in my opinion, I don't know about you, David, there won't be any, kumbaya, let's hold hands and kumbaya. That's gone way beyond that. It's gone way beyond that. And I don't like saying this terminology, people are waking up. I don't like that. But they should have been made aware a long time ago. You know what I mean, don't you, David? You know what I mean. And the Anthony Ross says, I work in the construction industry, and my theory is, like, in my industry, somebody is getting a backhander, letting all these people in. My industry, they flood jobs then for 20 men a man. It's like underemployment, isn't it? Really, you know, you and I would be gone. You'd be
that happened in the 30s, didn't it?
One man coming in to do the jobs. Sorry, what did you say?
It happened in the 30s.
It's always happening, unfortunately.
People were desperate for work, so they take whatever was thrown at them.
Well, okay, let's get back to Trump. When he came out and said, only last week he said it, and he said, you know, there's too many people dying. 1 million Russians have died. 1 million. 700,000, just bear me out on this. 700,000 Ukrainians. This war has to stop, and stop immediately. So they've got to get around the table and negotiate. And Russia, their economy has gone. That's what he said. People are turning against Putin. This is what he's come out and said. Now, at the same time, the day before, 24 hours before, the International Monetary Fund said that Russia's economy is as strong as ever, and one of the top, it's in the top 4 globally. Who is he listening to? Who is he listening to? Or doesn't he, you know, look at any alternative news?
Well, the Biden regime, I mean, they're all removed now, aren't they? So they would have been given the spiel to Biden. So that Trump's, I mean, not all Trump's appointees have been accepted yet, have they? They're still going through the hearings in Congress, so they're up and running. I mean, you've seen the carry on there, haven't you? It's just like it's so embarrassing. It's just.
Did you notice, David? I want your take on this. Did you notice on the BBC? Now, I watched Tulsi's.
You're not talking about John Kennedy, are you? Robert Kennedy. Not talking about Robert Kennedy, are you? The way
no, I'm talking about Tulsi Gabbard.
Oh, yeah.
When she was being interviewed by Senator Warren, a lady it was, Senator Warren. And when I looked at, you know, someone said, here, look at this on the BBC News, and they edited it.
I know. Well, they did the same with Kennedy.
It happened to Kennedy, yeah.
I watched it for a few hours because it went on and on. I mean, he was just they were throwing all kinds at him. And I was talking to somebody about it. They said, oh, did you see what they did to Kennedy? They really sort of strip off him, didn't they? I said, what do you mean? He said, it was on the BBC. I said, that was edited, that. He said, oh, no, it was live. I said, they cut and pasted that. So the consumption that the BBC viewers got was that he was a rogue and he should never be given the position he's trying to sort of get himself into. But he's been an advocate of lots of things for years. I mean, the problem with him is because he was a Democrat, and then he's jumped ship. They hate him, and so he's on a par with Trump for hate. So they throw anything at him now, rather than sort of say, yeah, well, you know, he's been a good guy all his life. He's had a terrible upbringing because he was involved in drugs and drinking. He had a serious condition which has affected his speech. And the fact that he's a Kennedy, I mean, that sort of carried him in high esteem with the Democrats for years. But suddenly, because, I mean, he wanted to be an independent in the presidential race. And then he realized, you know, there's no way he's going to get anywhere with that. So he threw his lot in with Trump. I mean, obviously Trump made him a promise of a job, so it was as good as done with him.
Well, even some of his family have disowned him, haven't they? I don't know now, but when he first became, into the Trump, shall we say, campaign.
When you think it's like religion, isn't it? You know, they're sort of brainwashed into believing that no matter what goes wrong, you still got to stay with us because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, this is your birthright and you can't sell it out. But it's, I mean, to me, politics is just so corrupt. I just don't like it at all. I mean, I always remember a guy was talking to me once in my trade union years, and we used to meet politicians when we went to negotiations in London and that. And there was this politician came in. He was a cabinet member at the time, and he was going around the table shaking hands with everybody. And the bloke next to me said, "Count your fingers." I said, "What?" He said, "Count your fingers." He said, "That's how bad they are." He said, "They steal a finger off you while they're shaking your hand." So thereafter, whenever I shook hands with anybody in the company I work for, who was in high office, after I shook hands, I'd always deliberately start counting my fingers in front of them. And a few of them, they knew straight away what I was up to, but the naive ones said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'll tell you later."
Well, I tried to read this out. We could get into trouble. Redbird. The only English the I'll just have to say it's a comment, and we read comments out. The only English the illegals need to learn is racist and benefits. Ask my mate who works in social services. We could tell you a few things while I was teaching English to some people. Terrible. And for your daughter is in a management position. It's
in the likes of social services, you're threatened with discipline if you've got to be non-judgmental, regardless of what you come across. And it's a crime to be judgmental.
What do you think of these comments, though?
Very good. I mean, you know,
I to read them out.
There's no woke in your audience, I tell you.
No, that's the point. That is the point of it all. The DW there, immigration is massive right across all Western countries. It's a plan designed to smash traditional society, its norms, its unity, and its unions. I've got nothing against migrants. They are used. We're all used. Every single one of us is used. I remember being a student and going away to work. I went to, where did I go? I went to Cambridge. That's a funny little name. Picking strawberries. Picking strawberries. But there was lots of foreigners there then, but these were students, foreign students, by the way. I'm going back years and years ago. And I forget the name of it. It'll come back to me, this particular big farm, massive. Ate strawberries ever since. Ate strawberries.
When I was serving my apprenticeship, I had to wait till I was 16 before I could start. So I had about 4 weeks to wait, and I got a job working. Do you remember Black Ledgers, the bread firm? Well, I got a job on the vans, you know, as a van lad, and my wage was £6 a week. And then when I started my apprenticeship, my first pay packet was £2.07, and I didn't get up to £4 till I was 18. But the firm I worked for was English Electric, and it was massive. In its heyday, there was 8,000 people working there. But what they used to do, they used to put you into the machine shops as part of your apprenticeship, and you run piecework, so you'd have a job card, what the rate of whatever you were doing. And then you went and got the timekeeper to bang your card and put, it was called grade adjustment. Now, a skilled man was doing the job. He got a high rate. If a semi-skilled bloke was doing it, he got a lesser rate. And then if women were doing it, they even got a lesser rate than them. And then as an apprentice, you even got less than them. So it was the same item was getting produced, but there were 4 different grades of pay for who was doing it. So you can see in the East Electric, they always had a big intake of apprentices because they could get them up and running and then undercut skilled, semi-skilled and female labour costs. But while you're doing it, you don't even realise you're being used.
I'm going to ask you something here because some people on here might know this. I know DW does. I know that for a fact. I know that Myra Page does because she's still listening to Myra. I do know that. Well, I know they know this. Now, can you tell me, David, can you tell them? I've mentioned this before on many occasions, but I haven't seen some of the names on here. So can you tell me why, and the people on here, why Russia went into Ukraine? Any idea why they went in February? You know,
it was a civil war, and the Russian people in the Donetsk area, they were under threat from the Ukrainian government because they wanted to separate. They wanted autonomy, and they just decided, well, you're not having it, and then they persecuted them, and that's the reason why Putin went into Ukraine. It wasn't to reconstruct the Russian Empire as everybody accused him of. He just went in there on humanitarian grounds, basically. But it's been distorted past that he went in as an oppressor. But there was already oppression within the country. It was from the start with the Maidan Revolution in 2014. And that was sponsored by the European Union, NATO, and America, the CIA.
Victoria Nuland.
Yeah, all right.
That was shocking what happened there because
people didn't get told the full story. They just get told the later part of the story.
And that is the thing. I knew about that because I've mentioned this before. I'm not going to go on about it. I was going to do a special thing about migrants from Russia, from Italy, and from Ireland, and I was combining these three peoples, and setting off from Liverpool. So I was going over to Naples and to do something there, you know, about the migrants coming from Italy. I was going obviously to Dublin as well, and I was going to do something there, and obviously Liverpool, and end up in Ellis Island. I was ending up there, and anyway, they said, well, what about the Jews from Russia? I said, well, they set sail from Crimea. That's where, from there, and also the main place was Odessa. I said, but now this is in 2015. I said, but there's a civil war going on. There's a war. It's a war zone. Now, the two people who I was talking to, they said, what do you mean a war? I've heard of no war going on. I said, it's a war zone. And that's how they keep it quiet.
Mm.
That's how, because it was predestined, wasn't it, to give Ukraine a foothold in their own country for these defences that Russia now is demolishing. They're just going through. It's a war of attrition. It's a war of attrition. And they're annihilating the likes of the Ukrainians, but they're not only the Ukrainians. NATO were there. We know that. NATO were there. NATO officers and soldiers. That includes American, Polish, French, British. They're all being killed. They're all being killed. And I think CNN has just come out and said about the body bags of American. They've just come out and said, I think it's the CNN or someone, a major newspaper like the New York Post or something.
I don't think
And
so.
said, we can't stop this war. What about our American lads? What are they doing there in the first place?
Well,
Why
like
did they-
in Vietnam, they went there as observers, didn't they?
Yeah.
That's
Who got the blame? Who got the blame? It all went on Nixon, and yet it was Lyndon Baines Johnson. It was his war, and this is what I think is happening now. That they're all trying to put, especially the Biden administration. The Democrats are putting all the onus now on Trump, unless he just turns around and says, "I've had enough. You're not getting a penny more. That's it." And tell the European Union, if you want that war to carry on, you fund it.
There's an interesting thing I picked up tonight, actually. It said the EU is debating restarting Russian gas purchases as part of a Ukraine peace deal, because they suddenly realised that they're getting screwed by the Yanks supplying them with gas. And I looked at a graph, and before 2018, there was no American gas going into Europe whatsoever. And suddenly, that's now the biggest deal. And the price of gas that the Americans are selling is off the scale. And it's affecting the European economy. So they're now talking about... So you can now see why they destroyed the Nord Stream, can't you?
Of course.
Yeah.
Can I come out and tell you, and that's only what the chat have been saying, and what DW said as well before. Now, here's my take on everything. America, they've had the plan for a very long time to go into the Middle East, destabilize the Middle East, destabilize a couple of African countries too, so that all the migrants, they knew that might be a big push of migrants, and I'm talking millions of them, going into Europe to destabilize Europe. And it succeeded. It succeeded, just like the Nord Stream. You remember that Sikorsky, that fella, the Polish minister, when he, as soon as it happened, he turned around and went like that, "Thank you, America." He said it as soon as he seen that, the terrible catastrophe, right, under the sea. And also Liz Truss, when she said, "Thank you," it's done.
Yeah.
To Blinken.
Mm.
That's shocking. That's shocking. And Blinken came out and said, "We can do a deal now." He came out and said it in the briefings. We can do a deal now, saying that they've got no gas. And this is what they're doing now. So they've got Europe like that. Biden has Europe like that and Blinken. But the only disruption they had was October the 7th, a couple of years ago, when, we had that atrocity, shall we say, when Hamas went into Israel. And that just distracted everything away from, the likes of Ukraine, the Nord Stream and everything. And they're still trying to deny it. They're still trying to, we didn't blow it up. But we all know who blew it up. We all know who gave the orders. Because even Biden came out and Schultz was standing there in a press conference in the White House when someone asked, "How are you going to do that?" He said, "We have means." About the Nord Stream. And the next bang, gone. And what did Greta Thunberg said? Said nothing. She said nothing. about the worst, eco catastrophe of the planet in history. She said nothing. Another phony, yeah. Anyway,
You don't hear of it now.
Sorry?
You don't hear of it now.
No.
And yet, all the politicians, they're paying a homage. I mean, that was just ridiculous. That was a child.
Who was she? She was a nobody.
Yeah.
That's why they build people up so that people will go, oh look, we know a few characters who are that now, if you know what I mean. And they did it about, this young kid, she's great, look at her, take notice of her. There was a load of, dare I say, bollocks.
With the gas situation in Europe, I just can't understand why Miliband is allowed to pursue this net zero.
Oh.
I mean, we're bringing gas in from the Middle East, and yet we've got it underneath the floor, really. It's just madness. They stopped coal-fired power stations, and they're bringing wood pellets in from Canada and America to burn in the power stations.
You can't make it up.
And the carbon measurement for the ships that are bringing all this stuff into the UK far outweighs any net zero savings that they're all going on about. I mean, they've even moved now. They've gone from 2030. They've moved it now to 2035. The same with the electric cars now, because nobody wants them. So they've decided that they're going to take the subsidies off them now, because nobody wants them.
It's just nuts, isn't it? Look at this, what the Emperor says. I always laugh when I hear these so-called human rights lawyers or believers. They always seem to be the worst type of human beings, and they are.
Yeah.
Let's see some of the comments. Let's see. Let's have a look at just some of them here. See what we. These are good. These are brilliant. Trigger. I don't think he's out of fields or not. Brilliant. The pensioners built this country, and all these politicians want to do is get rid of them at any cost. Can we rely on these wokies, immigrants, and youth to defend the country? Nah, don't think so. And that's me. That's what I've said. Nah, I don't think so. And that's spot on. Let's see. And the DW says they're unpicked at the factory gate. Of course they are. It's like the old pens in the dock system when, you say, yeah, I love you, yeah, I love you. Because I know, everybody has someone, relatives or whatever, working on the docks. And, the fella who's picking them, they're picking the mates and a couple of cousins of theirs.
There's an old story about when the whatever his name was, like the ganger, and he picked them out, and then when they went to the pub after work, he'd stand at the bar and he'd say, "Have you got a light?" And then they pass over the matchbox, and there'd be £0.50 in the matchbox, and that was for picking them for the day's work.
Yeah. It's it's shocking. I want to go on a couple of here. Trigger. Are we all ready for the latest so-called epidemic going around that's filling the Aussies? Another big money racket. Let's see how far they are going to go with this one. Absolutely. That's a crack at that. And the DW says, I've still not been vaccinated against COVID. I think I'll pass on the next one as well. The red bird. Legal immigration is not the same as illegal immigration. You're so right. You're so right, because people now are looking at, they look at the legals as though they're, illegals, if you know what I mean. So they can't distinguish between both. They can't distinguish. So everybody.
And then the other thing, you throw in refugees as well. That's another category to get around it. I saw a guy was filming outside of a hotel in the Midlands. It was like one of these ancestral homes. It was a grade 2 listed building. And as he approached the building, the security people came out. They were all, put it this way, they weren't ethnic British. They were all, sort of all shades of whatever. And they were trying to tell him that he couldn't go. And then he said, why? It's just public land. And he asked one, he said, what law are you talking about? And anyway, he went walking around the grounds and he collared one guy. And he said, where are you from? And he said, why do you want to know? And he said, I can't remember the name now.
Not that Darevsky, is it?
I forgot the name of the country. Georgia. He said, where are you from? He said, Georgia. And he said, there's no war in Georgia. He said, it will be soon, though.
But then again, you can look at Georgia.
Yeah.
You can look at what's going on. It's shocking what's going on in Georgia. You've only got to look at Romania and Georgescu. And you're looking at Serbia as well. You're looking at them and they're saying, hang on a minute. They want colour revolutions. If you don't agree with what the bloody EU is saying, or what America was saying, under Biden, you're in fear of, a regime change. You've only got to look at Maduro now in Venezuela. Venezuela want nothing at all to do with America, as you know. And that Blinken even goes back to Trump days. They wanted to overthrow him. They wanted to overthrow him and put in this fella who no one knew. No one knew him. He was on the telly nearly every day. But he was on the BBC News nearly every day, giving his out on an American fella. I forget his name. Like a fella in his 40s saying all that. No one knew him. Nobody. And Maduro, I admire that man simply because he stood his ground. Same as this, as a footage of Serbia. He stands on his ground as well. And so is Fico. He's brilliant, Fico, of Slovakia. He's called Zelensky out. He's called him out. And so is Orbán. These are great leaders. These are standing up firm against the EU. And I admire people like that. Look at those compared to Stalin. And as Lukashenko called it, you hear what he called it? so, this British journalist in Belarus, it was a press conference that this president was given, and he went out and said, "Oh yeah, and your Prime Minister Stormer."
Yeah.
It's it's a fucking joke.
When you think about it, the EU, it started off as the EEC, sort of a trading sort of bloc, and then it developed into the EU, and it was still part of sort of a trading entity, and then suddenly it became a political thing. It had its own flag, its own anthem. I mean, how it came about, and no one objected. They just let it drift on.
Yeah.
And it's become, they've got diplomats now all over the world, embassies. It's madness. And then they go on about democracy, and that's the biggest joke of any democracy, the EU, because everybody's appointed. There's no elections for high office there. It's sort of everyone.
Who elected her? Who elected von der Leyen? Who elected her?
She come unstuck in Germany. She was the defense minister there, and she was kicked out because she was useless. And then she just trails along and then becomes the European Parliament leader.
Yeah. Who elected? I didn't elect her. Did you elect her? None of the chat elected her. They're all bureaucrats, unelected bureaucrats who's telling you what to do.
Civil service overnight taking over the government, isn't it?
Well, did you hear what she said? Was it last week or the week before? When she tried to say that, Brussels, the whole of Europe, is a sovereign state. She wanted to be the leader of it. All of Europe, they have no sovereignties anyway. It's gone beyond madness.
Mm.
It's gone beyond madness. The Anfield Road, Redbird is talking to. Also, asylum claiming is through the roof from countries that people do not need to flee due to war or fears of death. The system is broken, and it's right. It's right. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, there's a bit of history for us. The English Electric, says DW, built the lightning plane. I think they built me Nana's Uber as well. Big company in many ways. The English Electric on the East Lancs.
They built washing machines and fridges too.
Well, they've sent them to Russia, haven't they, along with the shovels.
Mm.
That's fucking nuts. It's just... And the Anfield, I believe Putin's intentions were oppressive, like he threw his weight around in Georgia. He isn't no angel. He knew what he was doing. The thing is, Anfield Row, he's a great leader. He's a great leader. And everybody, look at the sanctions thrown at him. And the EU, it's come out with another sanction. Do you ever remember when von der Leyen came out and said they're using washing machine chips, for missiles and everything else, which was the most ridiculous thing. Now they're saying they're going to ban PlayStations and Xboxes. Little do they know that they're made in other countries that they're trading with anyway. It's insanity. It's insanity what's going on. But the likes of Putin, he was looking at the people in the Donbass area who was subjected to shelling. 14,000 people in the Donbass area were killed by shelling from the Kiev regime. It was shocking what was happening. Putin came out and said to the West, "Are you going to do something about this?" And they said no. They wouldn't even answer him. They wouldn't even answer him. They wouldn't answer Putin, Vladimir Putin. They wouldn't answer him. So anyway,
the other thing they go on about, they call people fascists and Nazis, but
he wanted to denazify the Ukraine, denazify them. Yeah. I don't think that they know about Bandera.
No,
Roll knows about Bandera, Stepan Bandera.
They don't want to talk about it.
No, of course they fucking don't. And it's so annoying.
I mean, if you look at the Azov battalion, you see that in signature, it's got the SS as signature in their unit. They've got more or less like German flags, yeah. And they were the bad guys of the Ukrainian army. They didn't take prisoners, then, lads.
No, I've been watching television. I've been watching terrible footage. Terrible footage. There's a place called Bucha. A place in Ukraine called Bucha. And the Ukrainian army massacred the civilians and went away and blamed the Russians for doing it. But the Russians, they'd already left days before. All right to the people, all right, yeah, get the food and everything and got up. The Ukrainians came in and massacred them. But little did they know that there was a few witnesses left. And it was they who came out and said, no, it wasn't. It was the Ukrainian army that did this, not the Russians. The Russians were good to us. And they left us. They just said, okay, and it's shocking what's going on, especially the propaganda. The propaganda is awful. Now, don't forget, Anfield Road as well, that the likes of Zelensky, he imprisoned the opposition. He closed every media outlet down, including television, newspapers, everything. And the only people that could, like media that could stay open is the people who backed him. And it's shocking what he's done. It's shocking. Him and Boris Johnson in March 2022, when Boris Johnson, there was a thing signed, an agreement for peace, and that would have been it. It was over in Istanbul. Boris Johnson goes over to Zelensky and says, don't do it, we'll back you, you're going to do this, you'll win. We'll give you everything you need, we'll give you the money, we'll give you this, we'll give you that. You'll be okay. You've got all the defences now, the defences that have been built in the last 8 years. You should be okay. We'll destroy Russia. And this is what's happened today. 1 million lads, 1 million Ukrainians have been killed. For what? For what?
It's almost on the scale of the deaths of the Second World War.
Oh, shocking. It's shocking.
And nobody's sort of, it's, oh, well, they're only Russians. And that's the end of it.
Did you hear what Trump says as well? I like the Russians, and don't forget, they helped us when we won the war.
Yeah.
They helped us. 2/3 of the fucking German army was fighting the Russians, the Soviets.
But that would have been a Russian front. It would have been the end of it.
I can't believe. This Kellogg fella, this General Kellogg, he hasn't a clue. And he's the envoy to Ukraine. He's the envoy. And he hasn't a clue. Has not a clue. The only person who's got a clue, and I mentioned there before, is Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard's good. She knows the score. And I hope she's in the ear of
Trump.
Yeah, Trump. Why isn't there, like the likes of Colonel McGregor, why isn't he an advisor to Trump? Why isn't he there? Why isn't he listen? Because he was an advisor to him in his last presidency. And he's coming out with all the truth, what is really going on. What's really going on? Scott Ritter the same. He's saying what's really going on. He's a Russian specialist.
But when they're on, they actually give you what they consider the up-to-date casualty figures.
Yeah, they do.
And the ratio is something like 5-1.
Have you heard of Larry Johnson?
No.
No, he's brilliant as well. He's fantastic, Larry. He's ex-CIA. And he comes out and said, there's 1 million gone, there's 1 million dead. And how are we not expressing that in the media today? Why aren't we saying, this is what he's saying, Americans, ex-CIA. I watch Judge Napolitano.
Yeah, he's good, isn't he?
Oh, fantastic. Well, he's on there, Larry Johnson,
Yeah. Well, I've seen Colonel McGregor with him.
Oh, well, they're the boys, you know what I mean? And, you know, they're giving us out. We're a little social
Did you
media.
know when Judge Napolitano, he wanted to go to Russia, and they wouldn't let him go, you know.
Yeah, took him off the plane.
Yeah.
And even the other fella as well, Scott Ritter, he was going as well, and they stopped him, and they arrested him.
Mm.
It's shocking what they're doing. I don't know what now about under the Trump administration. You know, I can't really say anything about that. But under the Biden, that Blinken, he should be up for war crimes for what he's done. But what you think of Trump as well? You know, he's saying, I'm going to stop all this, not just the Ukraine, but also Israel. And yet he's just gripped them with 2,000-pound bombs. What are they going to bomb? It's rubble. He's even said it. It said Gaza's like a demolition site.
Well, they're probably sort of in store ready in case Iran makes a move on them.
Yeah. It's shocking though, David, isn't it? You know, the way we're looking at everything.
I mean, that was the big threat not so very long ago, wasn't it? Iran.
But what's Iran done? They try to call them a terrorist country, a terrorist state, sponsors terrorism, and they don't. They don't. It's just because they've got like a sort of affiliation with Hamas. And Hamas, what you've got to look at Hamas through is who's the mouthpiece for the Palestinians that are being slaughtered? It's been going on years. I was in Ball Street one day. I'm going back about 10, 12 years. And I met this lad, and I remember him from years before. And he had those, you know, the scarves that they wear, you know, the like check big scarves. And I went, oh, well, all right. I said, where are you going? He said, I'm on my way to Palestine, Gaza. That's what he told me. I'm going back then. And I said, what are you going there for? And he said about, you know, he said it's terrible. We bring aid over to them, the likes of toiletries, food, you know, tin food. He said that's what we have to bring over. He said because they're being starved, and even water, barrels of water, he was bringing over. And he said because the electricity and the water is on 3 hours a day, and it gets turned off, no matter what time of the day. They don't like giving electricity overnight because daytime, you know, you don't need the lights on or whatever. And he said it's the hospitals that are there suffering, you know, people. And that's going back then. That lad, haven't seen him since. Don't know what's happened to him. Don't know what's happened to that lad. He was, you know, he used to be like a director of, you know, like what we call vlogging today. That's what he was. Smashing fella, but that's where. But it goes back. It's been going back to the Balfour Act. And you know where Balfour came from, though?
He was Jewish.
Yeah, but where did he come from?
Go on, tell me.
You don't know. He was a Scouser.
Yeah.
He was a Scouser.
Sure.
It's incredible. Honestly, it's incredible. But you know, it's just one of those things.
You know, when you mentioned sponsoring terrorism, the biggest sponsors of terrorism in the world are the CIA.
Yeah, look at this. What Myra says here. Ukraine borders is not reorganized by the UN. I just want to go through a few things then, and we'll, you know, we'll sum it up. Will you come on again?
Yeah, okay.
Because we're doing something for YouTube, aren't we?
Mm.
Which will be good. Which will be good. But it won't be going out live, unfortunately. But anyway, DW says Plessy's was a big employer up here, up in the North Sea. There used to be a big factory not far from me, all gone now. I think the site's private. Rabbit-Hutchhausen and Sainsbury's, leave Sainsbury's alone. That's where I do my shopping. There, and do you know what, David? Do you know when I ask you what gets the right? Honestly, I went into that B&A, is it B&M?
Yeah.
To get this thing.
You got it.
Get onto this. Goes in with Francie and I'm zobbling in, you know. I get the trolley. I had to get a trolley to walk. It was like a Zimmer. Anyway, I walked in. I said to Francine, Francine, I've got to get it. She said, okay, Dad, no problem. Gets home with all the shopping and everything after Sainsbury's. Right? And then got a few things out of there. Like, and I got home and I said to Francine, I never got that thing. She went like that. Oh, Dad. She said, I'll get you it, no problem, you know. So I never got it after all. Useless. I'm useless. And the Anfield says, I will say with Putin, it didn't make me laugh when he found out that the horrible Merkel was scared of big dogs. When they met, she sat down and let the Russian whoop out. Should have seen her face. You can imagine Rigby doing that. It's just nuts, absolutely nuts. But you know, I don't know. It's just. And it goes on by saying, are we like many countries giving aid to Ukraine, or are we playing to secure certain resources within Ukraine? No, the Black Rock's gone in there. The Black Rock. But when, I'm telling you this now, in the Donbass area where the Russians have gone in and just taken it, lots of resources are there. And I'm talking from wheat and everything else, from the most arable land on the planet. They've got that now. They have that now.
The American aid money, it was never given as aid money. It was given as a loan. And the loans had to be secured by land deals. And that's how that happened. So, I mean, Starmer, that's another crazy thing. He's committed himself to, or committed the British government to 100 years of aid. I mean, the man's mad. I mean, he's not said what the aid's for, or what's going to, whether it's for military or whether it's for humanitarian purposes. He just said, I'm committing the British government to provide Ukraine with money for the next 100 years. I just don't get that. And yet he knows what the Yanks are doing. They said, right, here's so many $billions. We want this bit of land, we want that bit of land. And then if you want to repay the loan, well, we give you the land back. Yeah. But they never paid the loan back, will they?
There's the university galaxy. Hey, can I join the panel then? The Anfield goes, you sure can, Galaxy? He doesn't know what he's letting himself in for. And the DW says it was a Jewish plan, Frank. It was called a clean break in 1996. The authors were largely the same people who formed the project for a new American century in 1997. They suggested a new Pearl Harbor. Whoa.
Well, that'll all come into conspiracy theory, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But then again, you know, what like conspiracy theories, I've always said, David, and you know what I've said.
Well, a conspiracy theory is only a conspiracy theory till it happens.
Till it happens, yeah. Or it has happened.
Yeah.
You know, because anyway, it's like being labelled, and people get labelled a conspiracy theorist. How can you be a conspiracy theorist when it's happened? It's absolutely ridiculous. and the University of the Universe Galaxy. You've got to have a link sent, and unfortunately, we're leaving. We're ending in a few minutes, unfortunately. And the TW says was needed to kickstart the whole thing, and 9/11 happened just 2 years later, and it's all kicked off. Everything. I always remember, that Dick Cheney. I'll never forget this. And it was in 1999, David. You might remember it as well. Just watching the news, and there's Dick Cheney, and he had like a document up, and he said in 1999, and he held it up like that. I never liked that man. Horrible, and he went like that. This is to rebuild Iraq 4 years before the illegal invasion. Shocking. This is what America are like. I'm not talking, people say about, I'm not talking ordinary Americans. I'm talking the deep state, the neocons, the globalists. That's who I'm talking about. But now Starmer is invited over here, Black Rock, hasn't he? Black Rock now is in this country.
And when Musk was making comments, they said that we can't have overseas people interfering in British politics, and yet there's never closed door for them to all enter into Downing Street, is there?
No.
And when they're in there, we don't even know what they talk about, do we?
Yeah, look at this. Do you ever remember this? Because I remember it. And DW says, here's a story, Frank. Von der Leyen's pony was killed by a wolf last year, so she actually passed a law allowing hunters to shoot wolves on sight. Yeah, I know about that. Okay. Do you know about that?
Yeah.
Don't you? Yeah, she passed a law. Shoot wolves on sight.
Well, how can she pass the law?
It's the EU. She can do it.
Yeah, well, that must have been. She should have to do that within Germany, shouldn't she?
I think I'm going to go through some smashing these. These are great comments. DW, I don't have time for the Japanese and what they did in the war, but let's not forget that the US dropped a nuclear bomb on 2 civilian cities, kids and that, killed in the tens of thousands in a second. And they still suffered, years and years later. Like the children of other children, children's children, they were suffering.
British and Australian prisoners of war there.
Yeah. It's IBR still here. Yeah. Even in Don Franco. Wanna say that, IBR. Wanna say that, amico mio. The red bear, like I always say, the dum-dums, is that true? Or did you hear it from the BBC, aka British bullshitting corporate? That's a cracker. I love that. I really love it. And it's a load of, whatever you were saying there. Damn right, David, saying that. I'd have to go right down. Yeah, the IBR, Mossad run the MI6 and CIA. Well, yeah, they do. They do. Do you think that Israel has got the power to do that to any sovereign countries? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Point the finger. Do as we tell you to do. Just do it. Do you think that you've got that power?
They rely on blackmail, don't they?
Well, that's what Trump is doing by his 100% tariffs. That's blackmail. That's bullying other countries. But he doesn't realise the strength of the global south. He doesn't realise it. He doesn't realise the strength of the Chinese, David. And what the hell is, I know like what they want. What's Taiwan got to do with America? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Well, that was a result of the Second World War when Chiang Kai-shek had to leave the Chinese mainland because he was the leader of the Chinese forces that were on the side of the Americans fighting against the Japanese. But when the war ended, Mao came to prominence then, and then he sort of picked up, and people fell behind him, and then eventually Chiang Kai-shek. I mean, the Yanks were support. They had a civil war with Chiang Kai-shek and Mao. Eventually, he was driven to the coast, and then they had to bail out and go to Taiwan, Formosa, as it was called then. And from there on, the Americans have supported them. I mean, they had nothing when they all landed there. It's just, just an island with no infrastructure. And then the Yanks gradually built it up. So they became a force to be reckoned with in the electronics age.
Well, you might as well say that about everything then. Because America. Because America, it's thrown its weight around. People think that it's only thrown its weight around since the First World War. They haven't. They deliberately stays out of the First World War because we asked them, when you come over and help us, give us an answer like these journalists. And they said, no, like, they call it the market. They call it everywhere. Well, everyone was at war in Europe, and then they came in and, as Obama said, we won the 2 world wars. In his inauguration, I couldn't believe what he said. That's silly, man. We won the 2. Why did he say that?
Can you remember? I would say in the early 1950s, when they started flooding the market here with like China does now with all the sort of cheap crap. And you always, like tools, you always say, oh, that's Japanese, that, because, they get a spanner and give a turn and it's breaking off. Now, the Japanese car builders, they were in a similar situation. The cars they were building were just absolute rubbish. And there was an American went into Japan, and he revolutioned the car building there. His name was Edmunds Deming, and if you read about him, and his mantra was, you don't believe in hearsay. It's data, charts, the whole shebang. And he came up with the theory. It's called just in time, where you don't store things ready to be used at a later date. If you need them, they've got to be there on the day. And that answer passed right through Japan. And it even came into Europe and into British industry. Because I remember the firms I used to be involved with, one of the things they first got rid of, was stores within factories. They said, we don't need to store things. We can just pick up the telephone and someone else will supply us. And the best example of that, you see motor factors, when you put your car in for the job to be done. Well, they don't carry a mass of spares for cars. They just get on the phone and then the next thing, a van comes around and delivers whatever you need. And that's how the Japanese car industry took off.
Incredible, isn't it?
They improved and specialised and improved. And it took us an awful long time to catch up on it.
Well, I stream a hell of a lot of things.
British Leyland, I mean, it was a joke, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think everything's a fucking joke with us, to be honest. Do you know what? I stream a hell of a lot of stuff. I'm not talking about podcasts or anything, but I'm, the likes of Japan, for example. I stream that beautiful country. America, beautiful country. The likes of all Europe, you go and see it, beautiful. It's incredible, absolutely amazing. And I was streaming Afghanistan, Pakistan, I'm sorry, of all places. I was streaming that. It's incredible, I'm not talking about cities or anything, but the scenery, the mountains, the lush green, even Iran. In Iran, you can go to a desert and, just die there. It's as simple as that. But also, if you just go a bit north, you can go skiing. It's incredible. And this is the beauty of the planet. And unfortunately, we're destroying it. We are, David, we are destroying it. And, it's no conspiracy theory. But the way the axis of the planet is, that's why we're getting tsunamis and everything else. This different weather that we're experiencing. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. The way the planet has gone. It's like that.
Yeah.
It's yes, David. It's just nuts. David, yeah. I wanted to ask you if the questions gone from me to sum up things. Okay, here it is. With Donald Trump in power now. Now he's only been in a week or two, right? He's only been in a week or two. Do you think, and especially with what he came out with about BRICS, he doesn't know the full extent really of BRICS. I don't think he has a clue about them, to be honest. It's just like that he hasn't a clue about what's happening in Ukraine or why Putin went in the first place. Do you think that he'll get his act together and sort everything out in Ukraine and also in the Middle East? What I mean by the Middle East, in the likes of Gaza.
Well, he's got something which he didn't have the last time he was president, because the first time round, he was looking at the end of his 4-year term. He would need to be re-elected. Now, this time round, he won't be re-elected because this is his second term. So he's got nothing to sort of worry about. So he's just got 4 years to get everything done. And then he can just bow up gracefully. And I think what he might decide to do is, I mean, you heard the story about they want to stick his face on Mount Rushmore, haven't you? So I think he might even try for that, become one of the great presidents. Because I mean, he's vain. You know that, don't you? He's terribly vain.
Oh.
So he might say, right, I want to be up on that rock, and that's it.
Yeah, Rushmore. Yeah. Do you know what though? Do you know what I've been thinking? I know it's like they go along with the Constitution and everything else. So you do a 4-year term, and you can be re-elected, and do a second term. That is 8 years. I think he'll have in his mind for him, coming to the end of his tenure, to say, no, I'm staying in.
No,
The people want me.
his age was against him. I mean,
Yeah, his age, yeah,
I mean,
of course.
I mean, the stamina he's got now, I mean, for his age, it's just, I mean, that day of his inauguration, I mean, what he did on that day, he was all over the place. He had 3 balls he went to, and did all that. He was making speeches all day long, and he has 5 hours sleep, and then he's back on the job the next day, and then doing these what do you call them? These when he signs the book and gets it out and says, "Yeah, look at that one." He did 100 of them in one go.
And he was actually given a press conference at the same time because, the people were asking him questions. But have you noticed the way what the press are doing now? They're always asking about Ukraine. They're always asking about Ukraine, so he has to answer. He has to answer that. Now, I've heard that, that Rubio, he's come out and said, no, that's it now with Ukraine. He's only come out and said it today, I think, or last night, or whatever he said it. And J.D. Vance hasn't said much. But I think this is me. I think he's waiting. He's given like a break of 90 days. Suspending everything, all these foreign aid, money going to foreign aid, whatever it is. And Ukraine is one of them. And I really think that he'll come out and say, that's it now, you're not getting nothing, no arms, no nothing to Ukraine. Now, can you answer me this question? Can you answer me this? Do you think that Russia will take Odessa the way it is now and landlock, because then it'll be useless? Ukraine, there'll be no Black Sea for them. Do you think that they will take Odessa?
Well, logistically, it's in their interests, but
the Russian-speaking people as well, though, aren't they? And they want Russia. They actually
then again, if they do decide to have a peace talk, could that be on the table?
Yeah. And as Myra says, weather issues is because of cloud seeding. I watched a film called, you might have seen it, I don't know. And I watched the film, and it hasn't been on since. They just like put it on and seem to have taken it off. And it's called Toxic Skies. And what it is, it was like an investigative reporter who was investigating these chemtrails. And they were all poisonous. And they were bumping off these chemtrails. Not young or, like yourself there, David. They were bumping off all the, the people over like 60 or 65, killing them off. And I was told, I'm going back years ago, about exhaust in cars and that. And, the chemtrails from planes that they will kill, pensions from 60 onwards. And
I have a thing about the chemtrail. I don't think it's a conspiracy, because if you look at World War II footage of dogfights, you see the aircraft that got chemtrail, and also if you look at the American bombers, I mean they were flying as high as the moon, and all of them they had chemtrails, and they were petrol engines.
Yeah, so, but you can put things in, but
that was sort of condensation. But
No,
I'll tell you one story which I came about. I remember a place called Linton and Lynmouth, where they had terrific floods, and there's a lot of people lost their lives. And just before the event, the RAF, actually the papers were released, and the RAF were involved in a cloud seeding. And that they reckon that's what happened. It produced a downpour of immense proportions and flooded the whole area out and caused all the flood disasters there. Because all the rivers overflowed and come running down to the coastal towns and washed everybody away.
Go on, sorry.
Late 1940s, I think that was. But if you look up Linton or Lynmouth, it was one of those disasters where the nation was stunned, and a bit like Aberfan, everybody was shocked. And look at Aberfan, it was the other thing, wasn't it? That was the coal board, that.
Do you think that, you're talking about conspiracy theories? Do you think this was a conspiracy theory?
Yeah. I've seen the video.
Do you think that was a conspiracy theory?
You know what I'd like to see? They're not doing it now. The submersibles going down.
No.
I would have loved them to go down. And the stern, where in that video it shows you that what was the other ship?
The Olympic.
And he reckoned you could see Olympic, and it was painted over Titanic. Now, if they'd have taken that submersible down to the stern of the ship, and maybe they did it, and probably someone said, "Hey, you can't show that."
Well, there was footage taken from Ballard. They said you can't show that. Now, what you're saying there with this, you go down and it's at the back. Now, here's a massive point about this. All the ships were painted. The names of the ships.
Mm.
Every one of them were painted. And so was the Olympic. And the Olympic, now it's all to do with insurance and the little big damage that the Olympic, the Titanic was involved in with a British warship, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, but the point is, the Olympic was painted on, and so was the Titanic. Painted. That's what they did. That's what.
Well, actually, it wasn't just painted. The lettering was embellished. It was like, like they were welded on letters.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's
what I'm saying.
Welded on.
Down, because by then the paint would have been washed off, and you would have seen the metal name then. And that's
they painted over it. They went black, and they got these fellas.
While that Titanic was under the water for all them years, that paint would have washed away, and you would have seen the metal letters.
Well, even the metal letters had fallen off. A couple of metal letters had fallen off Titanic. That's what it was.
Was it?
But when you actually see it, and it's had IMP underneath, I think it was one of the T's fell off, TI and C. That was like welded on Titanic, and they never ever did that. If you know what I mean, they never welded the name of that
video, which was done over a few days, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So
well, they got these fellas in, didn't they, to do it? And they said, "What for?" And even the windows on the Olympic and the Titanic, there's more windows on the Titanic than on the Olympic.
One time I got the photographs of both ships, and I was actually counting the windows, they weren't windows, like portholes, and the arrangement was totally different. Also, the Olympic on its promenade deck, it wasn't covered at the bow end. It was only after she'd been at sea and spray was coming into the ship. So what they did on the Titanic, they covered it in so that the spray wouldn't go into the promenade deck, and that was another giveaway.
Well, yeah. I'll tell you what we'll do, David. If you fancy it, we'll do a conspiracy theory. No, listen to me. I think you'll enjoy this. We'll do a conspiracy theory. Besides other stuff. Of that, why they sank it. Okay.
I thought you'd lost that video.
That's it.
Yeah.
I've got it there. That's it.
But you said you'd lost it.
No, I found it, didn't I? Yeah. No, that's the title of it, isn't it? Why they sank it. Yeah, I thought it did. I thought it lost it.
It was an VHS copy, wasn't it?
Yeah, but yeah, of course. But that's the DVD.
Yeah.
So what I did, I was looking for something and I came across it. I thought I lost that, through things. Anyway, but also I came across this, David. I think it'd be made up. This is a conspiracy theory. But, the conspiracy theory of that and Lord Lucan. Do you fancy that?
That's a conspiracy, is it? Scouts friends.
Frank Carlyle.
I'm leaving you.
You behind.
Yeah.
I want a brick in the cavern the cavern wall, I want a brick outside with my name on. If the Beatles can go on there, so can I. David, it's been absolutely brilliant, mate. It's been absolutely brilliant. Listen to this, fella. I'm sorry there, Myra. There it says, effing James Cameron hasn't had his Titanic DVD seen by so many as Frank's. He's great. Myra says, the CO2 is good for the world because plants convert CO2 to oxygen. It is good for us to breathe and also food production, control of synthetic food. Yes. David, thank you.
Okay, thank you, too, Frank.
No, I think it's been absolutely wonderful. We could do a couple of conspiracy theories, but we'll carry on. We'll say everything changes within a week. Everything. This this Middle East ceasefire at the moment, in Gaza, between Gaza and Israel, could blow up anything again, just carry off again. And I tell you what, if it does, and we start to drop bombs on the Palestinians, because they all made the way back, didn't they? The Palestinians, they said, no, this is our land, we're going nowhere. And if they stop, I think Trump will come under a hell of a lot of criticism. I just want to thank everybody on the chat. Myra, Anfield Road, DW, would you fancy coming on with David and I? Let me know right now. Let me know. Get a link to you. He's good, DW. He really is. Oh, look at that. The Anfield Road. Hi, Frank. Nice to meet you, David. Interesting chat tonight, says the Anfield Road. And the DW. Great show, great chat. Thanks all. And Swigger. Big up, Frank and David. Thanks a lot.
Frank Carlyle.
Thanks, yeah.
I like that.
I don't. Look, he's trying to make extra. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely? Oh, lovely Myra. Do you know where Myra's from? South Africa.
Yeah.
South African, yeah.
I lived there for 2 years.
But the thing is, you see, she's, she's not like here or anywhere. She's still in South Africa.
I lived just outside Johannesburg.
Yeah, you've got a mate there, Myra.
A place called Kempton Park.
She rides elephants, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, she goes on safaris up to Kenya and them places. She likes lions, killing lions and tigers. Colin Blackshaw, he always does this. He's always late at the party, even at Frank and David, even in Colin, mate. And I know that you're being on there. I know that.
You can always get your own playback, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah, look, the Redbird. Do you know the Redbird? He never swears or anything, you know, and he's so nice, and he was cheeky last night, you know, on me pod. Don't Liverpool, he was cheeky and swearing and everything. And look at that trigger, you got it right there first time, Crank. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Redbird. I love you too. So it's 8 p.m. you start, mate. Yes, Colin. David and I were on tonight at 8 o'clock. But anyway, in all honesty, I've got to thank Jason Pennington for setting everything up. I've got to thank David for coming on. And he never got back to me, did he? DW, because I asked him to come on. Let's see if he did. No, he never got back to me. I thought he might have done, to be honest. But anyway, David, thank you. Thank you, chat. There's some fantastic comments. Sorry I couldn't read them all out, but there was some fantastic comments. Weren't they, David?
Mm.
Some fantastic.
I see them all, like you.
But anyway, it's from me and David, thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully.
Good night to Frank's friends and followers.
Yeah, well, that's it. And tomorrow, people, 10:30, I've got the film and TV review in the morning, and everything goes on that. I've also got David's an Evertonian, so he won't be joining tomorrow on the podcast. You know, the podcast, which is the post-match podcast, that is, around 5 o'clock. And the history show on Monday night. Hope to see you all then. Thank you so much. If not, I'll see you all next week. And IBR says, thanks, David.
Thank you.
Oh, it's been great. So for me to say, thank you so much, people. See you all soon.
And good night to you, Crank.
Do you know what? I hate that fella now for saying that. He says I'm pissed.
I think it's good. I like it.
Thanks, David and Clank. I'll see you. To our people, thank you so much. Ci vediamo. A domani. Grazie.